Save on Uber One this fall with Verizon. For a limited time, get 3 free months of Uber One. Get $0 delivery on eligible food, groceries, and more, and 6% Uber One credit earned on eligible rides. Just another way to save on subscriptions you love at Verizon.com/Pandora. Subscriptions available at Verizon.com/PlusPlay. After 3-month promo, subscription auto-renews monthly at $9.99 plus taxes, unless you cancel. Visit Uber.com/Uber1 for terms.
If you're a facilities manager at a warehouse and your HVAC system goes down, it can turn up the heat, literally. But don't sweat it, Grainger has you covered. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products for all your operations, including warehouse HVAC maintenance. And even better, they offer access to experts and fast delivery, so you and your warehouse can both keep your cool. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Your dining room is the heart of your home, where meals are shared and memories are made. At Ashley, you'll find affordable dining furniture in a range of classic and modern styles. Ashley's small space sets and extendable tables are designed to fit beautifully into any space, from cozy breakfast nooks and kitchens to formal dining areas fit for a feast. And with mix-and-match seating options, everyone at your table gets the perfect seat. At Ashley, style is served. Shop in-store or online today.
It's time to have your high-five moment with High Five Casino, the top social casino where the action and real prizes never stop. Fun spins and big wins are right at your fingertips with over 1,000 games, including High Five Casino exclusives. High Five Casino is always free to play with free coins given out every 4 hours. Sign up today for a free welcome offer that can get you spinning and winning right away. Visit highfivecasino.com.
High Five Casino.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey parents, Greenlight is here to take one big thing off your to-do list, teaching your kids about money. With a Greenlight debit card and money app of their own, kids and teens learn to earn, save, and invest. You can send money instantly, set flexible controls, and get real-time notifications of your kids' money activity. Set up chores and put allowance on autopilot to reward them for their hard work. Then learn about the world of money together. Get 1 month free when you sign up at greenlight.com/podcast.
Sam.
Dougie.
Welcome back to The Truth, everybody. And we have a very important topic today because one of the most talked about players of the last 15 years or so, Paul Pogba, has had a pretty life-altering verdict. Let's get into it. Today we are talking about whether Paul Pogba can resurrect his career.
Pogba! For France! And possibly now the world!
Paul Pogba has had his doping ban reduced from 4 years down to 18 months.
Yeah, I think he is world class. He's a talented player, but you need more just talent. The real top and great players make their team better and they make their teammates better. He doesn't do that. He plays for himself.
He had the equipment to be the best midfield player in the world. And I saw a young man who was going through emotions a lot of the time. And that frustrated me. With that physique, with the technical ability, he just didn't have the right attitude to the game to make him become a superstar.
As I mentioned there, Paul Pogba, an exceptional player, has had a really difficult time in the last 5-6 years for a variety of reasons. But Sam, let's get straight into it. What's been happening in his life in the last 18 months or so?
Well, the great news for him, and he is clearly and rightfully absolutely delighted about this, is that his 4-year ban for doping has been reduced to just 18 months, which means that he can return to the football pitch in competitive standpoint in March 2025, and reportedly he can return to training in the new year to start ramping up to that. So he will be returning to the pitch at age 31, which is massive because if the 4-year ban had held, he would have been into his mid-30s. And let's be honest, there's no way back from that. If Paul Pogba returns at 33 or 34, look, you could have taken great care of yourself over that time, but physically, in the modern game, he's probably not going to get back to where he wants to be. But at 31, time is back on his side, and that means that if things go well and things go right, for once, for Pogba, we have to say, because as you alluded to, it's been pretty tough for him over the last 6 years or so, he can get back to the pitch and get back to doing what he loves.
Yeah, absolutely. To go a little bit more in depth than what happened. So in February, he was suspended by Italy's National Anti-Doping Tribunal, which is called NADO, after a drugs test found elevated levels of testosterone. It's actually got a more complicated name, but effectively it's testosterone, which increases endurance in his system. He was randomly drug tested, so the results of that came out in February, but he was actually randomly drug tested way back in the 20th of August 2023 after Juve's 3-0 win away at Udinese in the opening match of the 23-24 season. Pogba instantly argued from the get-go, I'm innocent. This is not intentional. And he argued that it was the result of taking a supplement prescribed to him by a medical doctor in Florida. Isn't that right, Sam?
Yeah, he went over to the USA. I believe it was during the Qatar World Cup. So he got injured and he'd missed the World Cup, obviously devastated because the previous World Cup, he'd taken a shining role in helping France win it. So to then miss the potential title defence is obviously absolutely gutting. And it's not as if he'd just missed the tournament for injury either. He'd been missing lots of games left and right. He'd been really struggling. He'd gone back to Juventus. It had gone horribly. Signed a massive contract, reportedly 500,000 euros a week. And he was barely getting on the pitch. We're talking like 20 minutes hit off the bench, then another 20 minutes, then 6 weeks out of the squad, then a couple of sub appearances, then another 6 weeks out of the squad. He was barely making an impact. And of course, he's feeling the pressure. He's earning a lot of money. There's a lot of fanfare with regard to his return. He gets an immediate big injury and then really struggles to gain ground. So he takes the World Cup and he goes, right, what can I do to fix this? And according to the report I read in The Athletic, which does a really good job of detailing a lot of what happened over this period, he goes over to America and works with a medical professional who claims to have worked with plenty of athletes in the US, did a load of blood tests. A few things came back, most notably of which vitamin D deficiency. So he gets prescribed some tablets to take care of that. Pretty easy to do, pretty harmless stuff. And this is where Pogba has made the mistake. It's not an offence to supplement your vitamin D. The offence was that whatever tablets he was prescribed, unfortunately, had other elements, other chemicals in it, and which has ensured that he has failed a doping test. Now, the reason this has happened is clear. He's desperate. He is having the worst time. You know, he has admitted that even before this and after this, he's drifted in and out of depressive states. He's talked about how he wished he'd never earned all that money. Like some of the stuff that he has said over the last couple of years do paint the picture of a man who has really, really struggled. And a lot of this is down to the fact that he's been injured and unable to do what he loves. So in this desperate state of mind, he hasn't done what he should have done. He hasn't double checked and he hasn't told Juventus that he started a course of tablets. And he's been flagged up on a drug test. And hence the ban.
Yeah, exactly. He then appealed to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, who accepted his ingestion of the banned substance was not intentional. NADO still wanted the 4-year ban upheld, which I thought was quite brutal because apparently the player's recklessness was obviously serious, and it was. But the appeal was led by a lawyer called Mike Morgan, who also represented Tyson Fury and Chris Froome in doping cases. And they reduced his sanction to 18 months starting in September 2023, which in 18 months' time will obviously be March 2025. He can resume training, as Sam said, in January and play again in March. I think it's worth saying before we maybe get into what's kind of happened at Juventus and where he's at and some of the things that you mentioned in terms of his difficulties in the last few years, maybe it's worth just sort of going over for our audience what kind of makes Paul Pogba so widely talked about, what kind of makes him so special.
Well, he's an amazing footballer and a huge personality. And he has moved for what was at the time an absolutely humongous sum of money. He broke a Premier League record for transfer, £89 million.
Broke a world record.
Broke a world record. Goodness me. Sometimes it's so difficult to keep track of these things. So he was once the most expensive player of all time, making an absolutely massive move over to Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world. Huge personality, a World Cup winner, and a prodigious talent, an incredible footballer, a Champions League finalist with Juventus, and obviously serial title winner, and just flat out one of the most exciting, but also one of the most pleasing footballers to watch in world football. And he is actually the player I point to very often when I talk about the difference in watching football in a stadium versus watching it on the TV screen. And Ranks listeners will have heard me make this comparison before. And, you know, I consider myself very lucky to have seen Paul Pogba play football in the flesh many times. on such stages as Old Trafford and Wembley in the cup final. Like, I'm very lucky to have seen that. A lot of people will not have had that opportunity. And when you see him, good grief, like the way he moves, he's so tall, but look at the way he sweeps across the pitch. Look at the agility, look at the suppleness. I mean, as a fellow very tall man, oh goodness me, I don't look anything like that. It's the smoothness to all of his actions. It drops my jaw. It really does. And look, that doesn't even dig into the fact that the passing range was crazy. You know, pinpoint stuff, the technique with the way he struck the ball, incredible. The driving box-to-box runs, the powerful runs, amazing. The way he could stick a ball in the top corner from 30 yards, just remarkable. You know, some great relationships he's had with great players over the years for club and country, with Zlatan at Manchester United, multiple players obviously for France, playing off Giroud brilliantly, playing with Griezmann brilliantly, dovetailing, just fantastic. So the reason this is a big story is because Paul Pogba, at his best, is one of the best players on the planet. Unfortunately, I would go as far as to say that he has not been at his best since he won the World Cup in 2018. That's 6 years ago. Am I missing a spell here, or was that genuinely the last time we saw it?
I think his next season, 2018-19, was pretty good, actually, particularly after Mourinho was fired and Solskjaer came in. I think that was probably the best spell of his Man United career. And he did end up in the PFA Team of the Year that year, I think, as well. But since then, yeah, you're completely right. Just the injuries have racked up, and it's been really difficult to watch. I also agree, you know, a really unique player, what he was able to bring, you know, the pile drivers, sometimes the way he caress a ball, the flicks, the tricks, could play in a variety of positions and kind of look world class in most of them as well.
Even he played left wing for Man United.
He was great on the left wing.
Genuinely a while. It wasn't like, oh, let's put Paul there for a week. We're short of wingers. It was like, no, he's playing here for the next 4 months because this is how we're going to get him into the game. It was partially to accommodate Bruno Fernandes. Partially. I say when you say accommodate players, that has a negative connotation. They were brilliant together. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. And, you know, he maybe didn't replicate the consistency of his spell at Juve the first time round, but, you know, at his peak at Juve, Golden Boy winner, you know, that award isn't just given to absolutely anyone. You know, Jude Bellingham won it last year. Messi's won it in the past. Rooney, Fabregas, players like that. He really was the best midfielder in the world, or very close to it. When he joined Man United, you know, he'd helped Juve to, I think it was 3 titles in a row. They'd reached a Champions League final. He played a crucial role in that. He was averaging pretty much over, I think it was 10 goals and over 10 assists for his final 2 seasons there. And actually at his peak, it wasn't just about if you were into your stats, you'd love him. If you were into what you saw on the pitch, you'd love him. He was kind of every type of football watcher's, you know, complete player, really. You know,
there was one guy that didn't like him.
There was one guy, and he
was in the intro.
That is a factor. You know, the way he was treated in England, which we'll probably get onto, not particularly, you know, something we should be proud of as a society, I don't think. But, you know, his best of 12 league assists in a season, which was in 2015-16. Griezmann's only topped that once in his career. Pogba provided over 9 3 times. Griezmann's only ever done it twice. His best of 13 league goals in a season. Gerrard only topped that once in his entire career. And we talk about the injuries in the last few years. He's still made over 500 appearances for club and country. He's won 10 trophies, including 4 league titles, 3 domestic cups, and a World Cup. And a guy I should have introduced at the start of the podcast as well, Jack Collins. I know you are a huge fan of Pogba as well, and Pogba's peak. He was really pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sam put it best. It was that gliding essence that you saw with Pogba. But I really like that point about almost everybody. Now, maybe he was a little bit languid for some football watchers, and especially a certain kind of bracket, I would say, of people who watch football in England. But what he could do was majestic. And it's really interesting hearing you talk about him as that kind of all-rounder. He played in so many different roles. And look, there were things that were done to somehow make up for that at times. And you think of Deschamps' use of Blaise Matuidi at the World Cup in order to accommodate Pogba's somewhat lackadaisical tracking nature, and that's fine. But actually, what he brought to sides. And the other thing that I always thought was really interesting in Pogba is his teammates loved him.
Yeah.
Everywhere he went, his teammates loved him. And every time you heard them speak, who's the best player at training? You know, who's the one that you would trust to put the ball on a dime in, you know, from 60 yards? The answer was always Pogba. And his insane level of natural talent I think was amongst the most breathtaking watches in football when he was at his peak. Now that has, as you say, been a long time, but my word, he was magisterial when he did things the right way, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. What a peak it was. And I think part of the frustration from the certain group we're talking about in England were for off the pitch matters. They didn't like the fact that he changed his haircut regularly, that he had charisma, that he was up for dancing in his celebrations. It was all the things that shouldn't matter kind of took over what should. And yes, there were slight weaknesses in his game. Maybe he wasn't always the most defensively disciplined. Maybe he did slightly overplay in his own third at points. But what he could bring to the table, I think, was just so unique. And in terms of why it didn't work out, which is what we should probably get into at United and what went wrong in his return, really, I think you kind of got to look at the midfielders that were signed by Man United at his time at the club. You know, there was Nemanja Matic, who on the paper would have been a very good signing, but was slightly over the hill, struggled with injuries. Fred, again, probably misprofiled as this kind of controller, never really brought that to the table.
That was weird, wasn't it? Everyone, when Fred was bought as a regista.
Yeah.
Remember that? City United went head to head for him. And I think Chelsea were interested too for this Shakhtar Donetsk regista. I mean, it was Fred.
Yeah, it was mad. And then, you know, you get Bruno, who's much more an attacking midfielder. Donny van de Beek didn't work out. He was never given.
And Herrera.
I think it was already there, of course, when Pogba arrived, but had his injury issues, had some great performances alongside Pogba at various points as well. But you kind of wish, for Pogba's sake, that he'd got that peak Casemiro season. That was obviously when Casemiro arrived, his first season at United was so special. I mean, Sam, you kind of mentioned it at the top about his kind of fallout at United, and a lot of it is injury related as well. But there is the sort of the big relationship of his time at Man United with Mourinho, which just turned into an absolute soap opera.
He's not the first person to be picked on, is he, by Jose
Absolutely
Mourinho?
not.
I mean, injuries are a big part of this too. I just went onto his injury page, and there's a page 2.
Yeah.
So that does tell you something. But yes, there was a certain point, I think, towards the end of his time at Man United. I don't know if people had got fed up with him due to the injuries, or maybe, you know, with the fallout with the management had just got too much. I don't know exactly what it was, but I did feel like public perception had really started to turn as well, really turn against him. So when we talk about him as being, you know, a delight to watch, I feel like the people that never got to watch him in the flesh didn't have that to counterbalance what they were perhaps reading or seeing from Jose Mourinho or from the media or whatever, and actually started to take a dislike to him. I'll be honest, I could never dislike this player. Never. With that much enthusiasm, with that much charisma and personality, and that skill, and the way he made me feel when I watched him, and just the way he ran around the pitch. Didn't even have to have the ball. The way he ran. Is it like I cannot emphasize enough how special I think Paul Pogba has been as a footballer. And I've seen thousands of footballers play football with thousands and thousands of hours. I've watched more than most. I've seen a lot of players, and very few can make me feel the way I feel when I watch Paul Pogba sweep across the pitch. So look, I'm excited by this too. You know, this is a huge win for him, and he's going to be well within sort of like peak age, career age for when he returns. I don't know what happens next. That's what we're going to talk about. But it is extremely exciting. And for those of you that, you know, may have only come to love football in the last couple of years, or you know, haven't really seen Pogba at his best because it was legitimately 5 or 6 years ago, we're trying to paint the picture for you. This is a really special guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And his body just really let him down. His body just let him down. You know, in 2018-19, the season I was talking about, team of the year in the PFA, was, you know, reborn almost under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at the back end of that season. You know, he had a spell of 8 goals and 5 assists in 9 games between December and February that year. Then he's linked to that move to Real Madrid and Juventus in the summer of 2019. And from that high, it all went downhill. You know, and he scored 8 goals in the next 3 seasons. He missed 90 games in those 3 seasons with injury. Then goes to Juventus, and he's made 12 appearances in 2 and a bit years. He injured his knee. I might do that again. He injured his knee 15 days after joining the club. He then refuses to get surgery because he wants to play at the 2022 World Cup with France, and then doesn't recover in time anyway and needs the surgery, which pretty much means he misses the entirety of that season, comes back in bits and starts. Then this drugs ban. It's just been a complete nightmare.
At your job, Do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It's time to have your high five moment with High Five Casino, the top social casino where the action and real prizes never stop. Fun spins and big wins are right at your fingertips with over 1,000 games, including High Five Casino exclusives. High Five Casino is always free to play with free coins given out every 4 hours. Sign up today and get free welcome coins you can spin for a chance at cash prizes. Visit highfivecasino.com.
High Five Casino.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply.
Your dining room is the heart of your home, where meals are shared and memories are made. At Ashley, you'll find affordable dining furniture in a range of classic and modern styles. Ashley small space sets and extendable tables are designed to fit beautifully into any space, from cozy breakfast nooks and kitchens to formal dining areas fit for a feast. And with mix-and-match seating options, everyone at your table gets the perfect seat. At Ashley, style is served. Shop in-store or online today.
Hey parents, Greenlight is here to take one big thing off your to-do list, teaching your kids about money. With a Greenlight debit card and money app of their own, kids and teens learn to earn, save, and invest. You can send money instantly, set flexible controls, and get real-time notifications of your kids' money activity. Set up chores and put allowance on autopilot to reward them for their hard work. Then learn about the world of money together. Get 1 month free when you sign up at greenlight.com/podcast.
But let's get into what happens next, Sam, because when this was announced very recently, it was then put to Thiago Motta, Juventus coach, and I think some of the Juventus hierarchy. And the noises from them weren't necessarily popping the champagne, we've got our superstar back.
No, I mean, I've only seen the quotes written down.
Mm-hmm.
And there would have been in Italian anyway, so I'm not going to understand. But seemingly the quote is, Thiago Motta said, he was a great player, emphasis on past tense, but he hasn't played in a long time. So, wasn't exactly fizzing with excitement, as you say. And maybe that is Juventus trying to draw a line under this fairly quickly. We've seen reports that he's seeking to mutually terminate the rest of his deal with Juventus. I'm sure Juventus would be delighted to do that based on his reported wage of €500,000 a week. Although, again, the suggestion is that during this time when he's been banned, he's only been paid €2,000 a week. So, not a lot of money.
No.
But not as much as 500,000. Jack, if you want to check my maths, but I'm pretty sure that 2,000 is a lower figure than 500,000.
Never do live maths, but yeah. I do.
For sure. Also, another big indicator here is that Juventus gave Pogba's shirt to Kenan Yildiz in the summer in their reshuffling, the young Turkish star.
To be fair, this is quite reasonable considering that they thought he wasn't going to be able to play because he was on a 4-year ban. And loads been made of this. And I'm like, that is not part of the discussion.
It's not rude by Juventus. Yeah.
Like they were like, what are we going to do? Keep this shirt in like limbo for 4 years?
We're going to retire it.
All right, I've been corrected on that by Jack. Sorry, Jack. Maybe you do raise a fair point, but the indications are that both parties are fairly happy to produce some kind of a fresh start. Don't blame either of them for that. Paul Pogba must have a certain amount of trauma actually in his mind from this failed return to Juventus, this inability to stay fit at Juventus. Just leaving the premises full time might do a lot for him, mentally speaking, because of all the obvious difficulties and travails that he's experienced, likely at that training centre, getting injured, getting re-injured, unable to get to the training pitch. Like, just get rid of that, get that out of your mind. And what's next? It's very hard to say. He'd probably be the greatest candidate of all time to be just an international footballer because he absolutely loves it with France and they love him. And let's be honest, again, over the last 5 years, that's the only place that he's managed to find any joy whatsoever. We don't know how good he's going to be when he returns. But correct me if I'm wrong, Dougie, and you may disagree, but some of the qualities that we've talked about with regard to Pogba here, the technique, the passing range, ability to land a 60-yarder on a sixpence, the fluidity of his motion, the long-range strikes, This stuff doesn't go.
No.
All right. He may not be as physically imperious when he returns, into his 30s as he once was. The driving runs through midfield, the ability to beat a couple of players, it may dissipate somewhat. We will have to see. It'll obviously be rusty when he first starts, but conceptually, everything really, technical-wise, is still on the table for Paul Pogba. And if all those attributes are intact, we're looking at an amazing player once again.
Yeah, hopefully. You just worry that if he's been, without football for 18 months, that his coordination on some of his footwork might have gone. And that was really, his footwork was what really stood out to me for so long. And
he's a dancer, wasn't he?
His ability to manipulate the ball was just brilliant. And as you said, I don't really blame Juventus for not wanting rid of him, but, for having moved on. They had to. I think, if they hadn't invested in their midfield this summer, that would have been a real issue. And boy, did they invest in their midfield. They spent 126.8 million euros in their midfield alone this summer, with Tejan Koopmeiners, who's 26, coming in, Douglas Luiz, who's 26, struggling at the moment, Douglas Luiz, and Kefren Thuram, who's not getting a whole lot of game time either. He's only 23. They've still got Locatelli, McKennie, Arta, Fagioli, the oldest of which is 26 as well on their books. So they just don't need him. In terms of where he goes next, I find it really interesting because I can't almost think of a player that really fits the MLS more than Paul Pogba. And he does supposedly have a house in Miami. He was spending time in Florida when this whole thing blew up with his drugs ban. He does feel like a perfect MLS designated player. Saudi Arabia will no doubt be interested in him. But I'd love to see one final roll of the dice in Europe. But then is he the sort of player that, to afford his wages, although he'll have to take a huge hit on those, you're looking at a Premier League club. Do any Premier League clubs roll the dice for Paul Pogba at 32 in March? I can't really see it. So the MLS feels like the most likely option for me.
Let's premise this with, we have no idea.
Oh, no sources.
No, not just that, but we just don't know what condition he is going to return in, right? It's impossible to say. We cannot say whether or not he will still be injury ridden or whether or not he will be fit. What if the same issues that plagued him at 28 and 29 and 30 continue to plague him at 31 and 30? It's possible. And therefore this, unfortunately, goes down sinking probably once again. He gets frustrated. But if he's injury free, if he's happy, and if the technical stuff is still there and he can get over these travails, why are you smoking?
I've just had this thought of everything you've been discussing. We talked a little bit about it on that episode about kind of is everything worse now than it was before, right?
Yeah.
And what you're describing basically is Juan Roman Riquelme. These classy playmakers, Rui Costa, these classy playmakers from the early 2000s who played in the 10 and didn't run and just put passes on a dime. And I've just been sitting here imagining Rocco Comiso going, yeah, we could put him in purple.
Oh, yeah.
We could put him in purple. Let's just put him in the 10 and just see what happens.
I mean, would you guys...
That's Fiorentina, not Orlando City, by the way.
To be fair, though, it fit either.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are fans of Premier League clubs with much bigger budgets than my team. Would you take him at Fulham? Would you take him at Villa, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Just for the vibes, right? This is the thing, and maybe this didn't come across in the first kind of discussion of him, but Paul Pogba was joy in so many ways. And, it's part of that why his teammates loved him so much. But he was exuberant and he was, he looked every time like he just enjoyed playing football. And actually, the spells that he's had where it's been difficult are those ones where he's not been able to enjoy his football again. So when he was under Jose Mourinho and he was asked to be doing this, more tactically disciplined role, he didn't have a good time and he ended up falling out with his manager. Fine, right? These things happen. But actually, in France, he's been given that freedom to do what he does best. And when he plays with a smile on his face, he's one of the most enjoyable watches ever. Right, 100%. So do you want someone who is joy and exuberance? I mean, yes, I do. Yeah, I'd love to see that. And hey, look, that's the Fulham camp at the moment. He'd fit right in with Vibes FC, Calvin Bassey and Alex Iwobi. They'd be having a great time.
We've got to see Smith Rowe and Pogba pulling out the dab in the corner at Craven Cottage.
This is the stuff that dreams are made.
I'd forgotten about the dab. I did loads of dabs when I scored goals on FIFA. I mean, literally, I did it, not just a celebration on FIFA. I mean, Pogba has had a massive influence on my life. Huge, for at least a couple of years. That's a really important point that you tap into there. The fact that he is joy and he is exuberance. The number one brief for Paul Pogba returning to football will be that he goes to a place where he can enjoy his football. There is absolutely no obligation from him to return to the very highest level and start grinding. There is no obligation for him to prove himself and to join a Premier League club and take on that daily grind and enter those really difficult midfields where, quite frankly, if he's not fully healed, he will just fall apart again. So maybe MLS as a designated player, maybe Saudi Arabia is a nice lifestyle and game speed for him. But I did shy away from that when looking for his perfect home because I still wanted to keep him in a top 5 European league.
Love it, Sam.
So I took that joyful aspect and trying to make sure that he felt good, and I converted it into a return to Le Havre in January, where he obviously he's from the Le Havre Academy. He was signed out of there very young because he was already amazing at 15 or whatever it was, and Man United took him, but originally from Le Havre, and they might need a bit of help staying in Liga towards the end of the season. They are in Liga, but they're towards the bottom of the table. Or like another French institution, like a Saint-Etienne or a Montpellier, who were also going to be down in that fight, but would be able to offer Pogba that ability to play a top-level football game or 10, and for him to play at a very meaningful level and see where he's at.
Do you want him in a relegation scrap straight away?
Definitely. He'd be so good for everyone.
I don't know.
Imagine if you were the relegation scrum to go, don't worry, lads, we've signed a new player. It's Paul Pogba.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it would give everyone a boost. I think Saint-Etienne fits. Like, there's enough history and
they're awful,
weight to that shirt, right?
Yeah.
Well, they won at the weekend. But, you kind of look at these things and you look at it and you think, well, where could he go? I think there has to be some sort of weight of history amongst it. And actually...
But Saint-Etienne does feel nice.
Yeah, but also if you're going to kind of go into one of those, I do think there's something about the idea of him being at Marseille.
I was just going to say.
It just feels like it would just work. I don't know why.
I think so as well.
How, but...
Well, that's a very different end to the table that I was pitching him at.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather him having a run at Europe or a title than I would him in the kind of thick of a relegation scrap. I really do. Because I think that there's not less on the line, but it's less physically demanding, I think, from the fan base that brings you on. You know, if you go into a relegation scrap and you don't run, and look, having been watched a team that has been in a number of relegation scraps down the years.
With a player that doesn't run.
The ones that get the ire are the people who are languid in those sides. I don't think you want that pressure on him. Actually, if you're the one pulling out the odd goal at the end of a game or putting a pass on a dime for you to score the winner, there's enough there that if you're at the right end of the table, that maybe that comes away a little bit in a different way.
Yeah, do you want him in a side with 40% possession, deeply camped in their own third? Like, I wanted him the other end of the table.
He'd stick a lovely pass over the top of the fence.
He would. It feels like PSG have gone in a completely different direction with their squad. They're signing much younger players. Marseille felt like the team for me. They feel mad enough to have done it.
The other one I came up with was Real Sociedad, who are just like a lovely club, obviously. They like to play a bit of football. He'd join a very, very nice cast. There wouldn't be that pressure for him to play 90 minutes every week. He could come in and out of the team. They're towards the bottom end of La Liga right now, but that's temporary. They're obviously a very good team. And I quite liked that as a potential fit. I didn't pitch him anywhere in my mind as high as Marseille, PSG, any of that. I didn't pitch him as low as MLS. I went for home comforts, but at a French institution of a club, a real titan like Saint-Etienne, or maybe somewhere like Real Sociedad, which is just good vibes. And that's obviously what Paul Pogba is.
Looking at the French table as well, Nice, they're 9th. Rennes, 12th.
Nice run a pretty tight ship on analytics, though, don't they?
This is true.
You can't imagine him going there.
This is from January. So we do, like the table right now is the table. I mean, look, some teams are just going to be down there. But like Nice and Rennes feasibly won't be 11th and 12th by January when he can actually pick his club.
I think what we've kind of discovered in the course of this podcast is that there is a certain romanticism to Paul Pogba, the player. And I think we're all kind of rooting for him. You know, the injury issues he's had, the alleged extortion attempt, which involved his brother, who, along with 5 others, was arrested, the drugs ban. That is, I mean, if there was anyone to make a film of in the last 15 years in football, I think Paul Pogba would be number one candidate. In fact, Hollywood, I'm willing to write the script with Sam. Jack can do the voiceover. And I don't know what we'll do a 3-man production because he is box office and the story has been box office. And actually, in a way, I kind of want him to have a really nice, relaxed end of his career, pick up 30, 25 games a season and just coast for the rest of it because he has kind of deserved it. I mean, Sam, do you have any final thoughts on Pogba and his future?
I think you've summed it up really well, and you kind of made me realise that yes, I am rooting for him. Researching the case and reflecting back over the course of his career in preparation for this podcast has made me remember like how strongly he made me feel when he played the game. Considering he hasn't ever played for a team that I support, I really do have quite the affection for him. And that really does speak to the manner and the way in which he played and how special he is. And yes, the last 5 years, I hadn't quite realised as well that the last 5 years, it's not like the last 2, it's 5 or 6 years have been horrendous for him. Absolutely horrendous. So if anybody in the world of football deserves a slice of luck, it is Paul Pogba, and I'm rooting for him too. And you know what? I didn't think I'd like it, but that MLS designated player suggestion is really singing a tune.
Love it. Paul, get over there. I mean, Jack, have you got your red carpet ready to go down to Craven Cottage?
Yeah, I'm going to try and convince Paul Pogba.
Does he really suit Marco Silva's high pressing style of play?
Yeah, well, we got to wait. Look, nor does Emil Smith Rowe, but we're making it work, right? So, look, I think the thing is, and it kind of takes it back to the start of the episode and actually the name of it, right? That can Paul Pogba resurrect his career? Well, I think we need to probably just make sure we're defining what resurrect looks like. And actually, I think over the course of this podcast, we've discussed the idea that resurrecting his career does not mean Paul Pogba getting back to the very, very elite of the game. It means Paul Pogba playing the kind of football that made Paul Pogba so fun to watch. And so I think some people will be thinking about this, listening to like, oh, is he going to finally make that Real Madrid dream move? No, he's not. He's not going to reach that. It's not going to be like that. I mean, there is a very tiny chance, but ultimately, I don't think that's what would make this successful. I would like to see him in a team that plays to his strengths, that allows him to express himself in the way that's best. And if that is in MLS, then fantastic. And the MLS are going to gain an incredible player to go alongside this kind of roster of stars that seems to be accumulating ahead of the 2026 World Cup. But if it's not, then I hope it's somewhere where we see him playing that way again and really enjoying himself. You know, I said Fiorentina, I don't think it's the worst shout in the world. Imagine him in a front three with Isco and Giovanni Lo Celso at Betis. These are options, right? And I think that we should just be glad to see him playing again if he gets to that place. And wherever that is, I hope he's enjoying his football.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels only right that someone that shone that bright should have the ending that their career deserves. Guys, that has been The Truth for another week. Big thanks to Sam Tighe.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you very much to Jack Collins.
Cheers, Dukes.
And we will catch you next week. Look after yourselves. Bye-bye.
High Five Casino lets you play your favorite slot and live table games like blackjack with the chance to redeem for real cash prizes. High Five Casino has a giant selection of over 1,200 games, including hundreds of exclusive games only found on High Five Casino. It's always free to play, and free coins are given out every 4 hours. Ready to have your own high five moment? Visit highfivecasino.com. That's casino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey parents, Greenlight is here to take one big thing off your to-do list, teaching your kids about money. With a Greenlight debit card and money app of their own, kids and teens learn to earn, save, and invest. You can send money instantly, set flexible controls, and get real-time notifications of your kids' money activity. Set up chores and put allowance on autopilot to reward them for their hard work. Then learn about the world of money together. Get 1 month free when you sign up at greenlight.com/podcast.
Your dining room is the heart of your home, where meals are shared and memories are made. At Ashley, you'll find affordable dining furniture in a range of classic and modern styles. Ashley's small space sets and extendable tables are designed to fit beautifully into any space, from cozy breakfast nooks and kitchens to formal dining areas fit for a feast. And with mix-and-match seating options, everyone at your table gets the perfect seat. At Ashley, style is served. Shop in-store or online today.